It's time to hang him up, son. Baltimore Ravens wide receiver Steve Smith plans to retire at the conclusion of the upcoming season. The ultra-competitive Dynamo has announced that all his chips are on the table. DBs, you've been put on notice. Steve Smith plans to wound, puncture, and damage every and anything in sight. The Agent 89 special of the Pylon's coming at you full speed. Ice up, son. At the end of this season, we are going to look back and wonder whether or not Steve Smith has a place in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Which is absolutely insane to think about in hindsight, because in 2001, scouts and GMs alike were wondering whether or not Steve Smith would even have a place in the league. The Carolina Panthers understandably took some flack because they spent a third-round draft pick on a severely undersized prospect that was supposed to amount to nothing more than a punt returner. Fast forward that narrative 4 years later, and the guy that wasn't ready to contribute at receiver, he's now your NFL Triple Crown king. The last one to accomplish that feat, I might add. Steve Smith can be seen as a pioneer of sorts for the undersized receiver in the NFL. He's opened the door for guys like Tavon Austin and Brandon Cooks to be first-round draft picks despite their diminutive stature. However, what separates Steve Smith from the pack is his trademark feistiness. We've all come to know and love it. Steve Smith plays with a certain rage that cannot be replicated. There are coaches that instruct their players not to anger this man, this out-of-control Tasmanian devil. Just let the man do his thing. He's one of the greatest to ever do it, so he'll get a couple on you. Just make sure you wrap him up, tackle him cleanly. Do not get chippy with him, because we don't need a guy who plays with an unrelenting Napoleon complex to be any more motivated than he already is. When questions about his height finally seemed to be put to rest, the questions about his age started to arise, which led to his release from the Carolina Panthers after 13 seasons. The Panthers felt that their longtime icon had quite frankly lost a step and was more trouble than worth keeping at this point in time in a young man's game. As we all know, the Baltimore Ravens swooped in and were not about to let Steve Smith leave their headquarters without a signed contract in hand. They were going to hold that man hostage, and that is exactly what Steve Smith wanted. That's what he needed, with the Carolina Panthers kicking him to the curb and leaking reports that he was nothing more than a locker room nuisance. Smith needed to go somewhere where he felt appreciated and was just able to be himself, and the Ravens provided him just that. And Smith rewarded them for it by putting up one of the greatest seasons for a 35-year-old receiver with just over 1,000 yards on 79 catches, highlighted by a Week 4 matchup against his former team in which he, and I quote, ran around them boys like they were schoolyard kids to the tune of 7 catches and 139 yards and 2 touchdowns. Despite being a part of historically inept quarterback play and being a part of teams that focused on running the football, Steve Smith has managed to make his career numbers line up with that of the all-time greats. A very doable 637-yard season would put him just inside the top 10, which would do wonders for his Hall of Fame resume. But either way, between his violent swagger on the field and his headline-grabbing one-liners behind the podium, Steve Smith is a one-of-a-kind persona that the NFL will not soon forget.